Welcome to EDU World Space.
So for this problem, we will let t be the time that has elapsed since the first collision. No external forces in the xy plane act on the system consisting of cars A, B, and C during their impacts with one another. The mass center of the system moves at the velocity it had before the collision. So if we set the origin at O, we can find the initial mass center R0. Since we know a definition for the mass center to be the sum of the masses ma plus mb plus mc, the mass of the three cars, multiplied by the position of the mass center, the initial position x0 I plus y0 j. And this is equal to the mass of car A times its position, which is 0, plus the mass of car B times its position, which is also 0, plus the mass of car C times its initial position, or its position xc, times I plus its y component yc times the unit vector j. And so from here, we can solve for x bar naught, the initial position of the mass center, to be 0.3 xc. So we're just equating like components. And this is 0.3 times 32 feet. Hence we get x bar naught to be 9.6 feet. Similarly, for y bar naught, the initial position of the mass center in the y direction is 0.3 times yc. That's 0.3 times 10 feet. And we get that y bar naught is 3 feet. So now we have the initial position of the mass center. So the position of the mass center before the collision. The velocity of the mass center we calculate as follows. So using the momenta, ma plus mb plus mc times the velocity of the system, v bar, or the velocity of the mass center, is equal to the sum of the products of the masses and the velocities. So MAVA plus MB VB plus MC VC. And so if we rearrange this, we can find the velocity of the mass center. We'll just label this as the velocity of the mass center. So we calculate the position of the mass center initially. Now we have the velocity of the mass center to simply be 0.375 VA plus 0.325 VB plus 0.3 VC. So now we can calculate the point at which the cars hit the pole. So the cars that have collided hit the pole at point RP. So they combine and hit the pole together. And this point, RP, has coordinates xp multiplied by unit vector I plus yp multiplied by j. So we're resolving this into its x and y components. So xp times I plus yp times I, which is essentially the coordinates of the pole in our xy plane, is equal to the initial position of the center of mass x0 I plus y naught j, and since there are no external forces acting, it's the velocity of the center of mass v times time t. So that will give us the position of the pole. So if we resolve the x components and y components, we get the following. So resolving the I components, we get that the x coordinate of the pole xp is equal to x bar naught plus 0.375 VA times TP minus 0.3 VC times TP. And TP is the time that has elapsed when the cars collide with the pole. Similarly, the y coordinate is equal to y bar naught plus, so we equating, so this is actually j here, not I, yp times j. So equating the j components, we get y bar naught plus 0.325 times the velocity of b multiplied by Tp. So we have two equations here, and we label them 1 and 2. So we wish to actually calculate xp and yp. Now, what we do know is that 2.4 seconds elapsed when all three cars collide with the pole. So therefore, so we can say Tp is equal to 2.4 seconds. And if we substitute Tp is equal to 2.4 seconds into the expression above, knowing that we have the velocities, so we have the given velocities, which we'll write down first. Let's write down our velocities. VA is given as 75 miles an hour. So we need to just convert this before we can use it. And that's in the I direction. So we need to convert this to feet per second so that we can use it in our equation. So 75 miles an hour is equal to 110 feet per second in the I direction. The velocity of car B is equal to 45 miles an hour in the J direction, and this is 66 feet per second in that direction. And finally, the velocity for car C is given as 60 miles an hour in the I direction, and so that's 88 feet per second times basis vector I. So now we have our time, Tp, and we have our speeds of car A, B, and C, the velocities. So we can substitute them back into equations 1 and 2, since we know x bar naught and y bar. So we have vectors for the velocity of each car. We have the initial velocity of the center of mass of the system, and that's x naught and y naught, and we have the time Tp. So from equation 1, we can calculate the x coordinate of the pole, xp, and that's 9.6. So we substitute our values in here, plus 0.375 times 110 feet per second times time t, 2.4 seconds, minus 0.3 times 88 times 2.4, and we get the x-coordinate at P to be 45.240. Similarly, in equation 2, we can find yp, and yp is 3 plus 0.325 times 66 times 2.4, and hence we get the y-coordinate of the pole to be 54.48, and that's in feet. So we end up with the coordinates of the pole rp to be 45.2 feet and 54.5 feet.